Hey guys, welcome back to Reserved Investments on YouTube. All right, before I get to the crux of this video, I just want to state that most people probably don't realize this, but in 2008, during the financial crisis or the almost financial collapse, investors were really cutting back on luxury goods spending, which included collectibles. So if you go back and you chart the value of collectibles in 2008, 2009, you're going to notice a pullback in most markets with the exception of certain rare coins, bullion, silver, gold, other types of asset classes that were more in tune to high net worth individuals. But overall, even wealthy collectors, back in 2008, wealthy investors, they were pulling back on luxury goods spending. This is something that really isn't talked about on most YouTube channels, and I am going to be doing more videos on this as soon as I get around to it. Again, guys, I have about 60 to 70 videos in queue that I still need to work on to get uploaded to YouTube, so that's taking a lot of my time because I am behind on a lot of the principles that I like to teach on this particular channel. Well, that being said, there is a difference in how collectors and investors are approaching the year 2020 in regards to the pandemic, in regards to different asset classes that are now soaring in value. We are seeing an interesting dichotomy take place where the inverse relationship occurred in the year 2020 than that of 2008. Rather than shy away from collectibles, antiques, luxury goods, we're seeing now a new crop of collectors and investors gravitate towards those items. And a lot of this has to do with the Fed propping up the value of monetary assets, creating asset bubbles in a lot of alternate asset categories, as well as Wall Street and the financial markets. Now, ironically, as of the filming of this video, which is taking place towards the end of September 2020, if you look at what's happening with the stock market right now, the stock market and investors in general are getting very antsy because the Fed pulled back what was supposed to be happening in those markets in regards to stimulus. And what I mean by that is there's no longer any $1,200 checks going out to the average American. The benefits that were added to unemployment compensation have pretty much dried up or dissipated. As a result, the economy as a whole is kind of in shambles. It's really in a neutral state, if I could use that as a better description, because it's not going to collapse. It's not going to crash. We're nowhere near that, guys. So please, if you're one of these people that reaches out in the comment section and goes, Sean, the whole economy is going to collapse. It's all a scam. I'm putting all my money into gold, silver, and collectibles. I'm sorry, you're doing it wrong. Now is a fantastic buying opportunity if you are going after undervalued assets in the financial markets. I continue to believe that. I believe that back in 2008. That's how I made a lot of my money, guys. It was pretty much buying up undervalued assets that a lot of people were afraid to touch. Other YouTubers out there in the collectible space, in the finance space, they've done the same thing. They talk about it in their channels. I'm not going to name any names because I don't want to pull anybody else into this discussion or have people reach out to them and say, well, Sean of Reserved Investments said this. Is this true? I'm not trying to point attention to anybody. But that's something that I really just want to put out there as a random FYI. You really have to analyze what was happening back in 2008 versus what's happening now in 2020. Now, to be fair, I do want to state one clear stance that I have. I really feel sorry for some of the millennials and even some of the people my age, the Gen Xers, who feel left behind because not only did they go through a financial crisis in 2008, literally 12 years later, they're now dealing with another issue that's affecting the financial markets and the economy as a whole. So for some people out there trying to build wealth, I understand that these are very turbulent times. The 2016 election did not help that, in my opinion. That's all I'm going to state. I'm not going to get political. But 2016 added to that fire. And there's a lot of people, unfortunately, that are going to be left out of the economic growth that's going to be coming in the next 10 to 20 years as a result of some of those circumstances. So I'm not going to get too far into that in this video. What I really want to talk about is collectibles for speculating or investing for the short term versus the medium term or the long term. This is something that a lot of you guys reached out to me about. You really want to know, Sean, what collecting categories should I be buying for the short term, just to flip to the Timmys and the Poindexters out there who will pay a premium for a game like Super Mario 3D All-Stars, or the latest Amiibo, or the latest Funko Pop, or a Lego set that's just retiring, or Nike Air sneakers that they couldn't go to Foot Locker and buy during the pandemic. I'm just using that as an example. I don't know if that's true, but items of that nature. So that's what we're going to talk about in the crux of this video. So for short-term speculation, you must understand, if you want to profit in that market, mass-produced scarcity is your friend. You see, I've started this channel literally, 18, 19 months ago? And ironically, there's a lot of people that think this channel had a lot of growth. I disagree with that assessment. I only have, to this point, roughly 3,000 subscribers. As a result of having 3,000 subscribers, I knew when I started this channel, it would never get the attention that the hype-driven channels out there on YouTube get. So I knew that in the planning stages. I had a lot of people reaching out to me telling me, Sean, don't even start a YouTube channel. Don't go in this direction. Don't do it. If you want to do something in the antiques and collectibles trade on YouTube, at least create a hype-driven channel. Don't teach people the basics. Nobody cares about learning economics, finance, investing in antiques, collectibles. All they want is to be told that the items they're buying are going to go up in value. If you start a YouTube channel that does that, you'll have 10, 20, 30,000 views. And ironically, if you compare my videos to that of what's out there on YouTube right now, you're going to see most of my critics, most of the people who come on YouTube and say, hey, 1990 comic books are going up in value. Look at this. Those guys all have 10 to 20,000 views on those videos. They almost have 100,000 subscribers, if not more. There's me, who's trying to teach the basics of this stuff. And every time I put out a video, yes, every once in a while, I'll do a video that captures the attention of the Magic the Gathering community, or the vintage video game community, or the rare coin community, or whatever community or sphere on YouTube it happens to penetrate through. But overall, what happens is about 500 people will start subscribing to my channel. A lot of those people will start to pull away when they realize the information that I'm talking about is not congruent with their core beliefs. They want to believe that they can go out in the market and they can buy the standard Magic the Gathering booster box, and within 30 years, that box is going to be a $500 to $1,000 booster box. They can sell it, they can cash out, they can get the hot chick, they can have the house paid for with the white picket fence and a kid by the name of Timmy, and they can live the good life. That is not how these markets work on average, guys. You must understand that. I'm not trying to lead you astray. I'm trying to tell you the truth. I am somebody that has a lot of money invested in antiques and collectibles. Believe me. I'm also somebody that has a lot of money in the stock market on average. So when I tell you this stuff, it's not to change your mind. It's to enlighten you to the truth. That's the whole point of the Illuminati Eye of Providence sign or insignia that I use on this particular channel. That's what's behind it. I'm just enlightening you to the truth. Now, getting back to the point of this video, because as you guys can see, I do have a tendency to sometimes go off on a rant. For short-term speculation, mass-produced scarcity is your friend. If you want to make money in these markets, you need to learn how to let go, first of all, because you're going to go to the market. You're going to probably get some modern era mass-produced video games or some collectible edition items, whether it's a Lego set that's only available for a year on store shelves or directly through the Lego store, or whether it's a pair of limited edition Nike Air Jordans, or whether it's a comic book, a toy, a Magic the Gathering collector's box, whatever it is, you have to learn to let go. You're buying these items and you're going to be a custodian of them for a short period of time. As soon as the market goes up, your best bet is to sell into that market. You do not hold short-term, speculative, mass-produced scarce items for the long term. Let me repeat that. You do not hold short-term, mass-produced pop culture items for the long term. You flip them when the market goes up. This includes Nintendo Amiibo, Funko Pop, Lego, Nike Air Jordans that are of the modern era, comic books of the modern era, vinyl records of the modern era, video games, Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, whatever it is, if it is made in the modern era and it has some type of a scarce limited edition run to it based on how the manufacturer is marketing that product. If that's something that you analyze can be a good short-term investment, you buy it. Then when the market goes up, you sell it to the Timmies and the Poindexters out there who think that that item is going to be extremely valuable in the years to come. You can do this with certain limited run games that are coming on the scene. Like if you look at what Layers of Fear and Dragon's Lair Trilogy are going for just for the PlayStation 4, those particular items are selling at $100 right now. Well, if you bought them when they first came out for what, 30, 40 bucks, and you kept them factory sealed, you can literally double your money and make a little bit more on that selling into the market right now. That's your best strategy. Now, short term is defined as 5 years or less. So if you're investing in these markets, if you are engaged in short-term speculation and investing, that's less than 5 years. So if you buy something in 2016, you really got to be prepared and you got to know your market. Is that item going to accelerate in value in the next 5 years? So if you bought something in 2016, by 2021, you want that out of your inventory. You want it done, out of here, gone. You want to give it to the next person or sell it to the next person for a profit. That's how you make money in these markets. Now, moving on from short term, we get into the midterm range. Now, this is the range that confuses most people. Most people do not know what midterm investing is in the antiques and collectibles trade, so let me enlighten you. Midterm investing is roughly 7 to 12 years. That is midterm investing. You could make an argument that it's anything after 5 years and maybe up to 10. If you wanted to go that route, that would be fine. Normally, I put midterm investing at 7 years to 12 years. That's how long you're going to be expected to hold these items. Now, let's analyze what are good midterm investments. Modern era firearms. Right now, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because America is completely politically divided. Maybe it's just because some people just really like to collect guns. I don't know. But modern era firearms have been a stellar investment in the antiques and collectibles trade for literally the last 10 years. Honestly, going back to when Obama was elected. And again, I'm not getting political. I'm just saying there are people that continue to overreact and think that somehow the Second Amendment is going to be appealed. The Second Amendment is not going to be appealed. I don't care if Joe Biden wins on November 3rd or if Donald Trump wins on November 3rd. You have nothing to worry about when it comes to the Second Amendment, okay? But anyway, modern era firearms are a good midterm investment if you know what you're doing and if you know how to analyze the market. That being said, on all these collecting categories that we're talking about today, you can lose money. If you don't know what you're doing, if you don't know how to analyze the market, when you go to sell, is going to punish you. It's going to smack you across the face, and you're going to look like a redheaded stepchild. And you don't want to look like a redheaded stepchild, especially not in the antiques and collectibles trade, okay? So hear me out. You can lose money if you don't know what you're doing here. Now, another item that's good for midterm investing, believe it or not, are at present time, and I got to say this, at present time, that could change, CGC graded vintage comic books. You want to avoid the modern dreck. I'm going to be very honest. Those of you out there that are going after Walking Dead 1 or Amazing Spider-Man 300, been there, done that. Prices have risen. I'm sorry, those are bad long-term investments. Those are really bad midterm investments. If a certain opportunity would open up in that segment of the market where you can get like an Amazing Spider-Man 300 in 9.8 or a Walking Dead 1 in 9.8 for lower than market value, by all means, buy it and flip it. But don't try to hold those books. Those books are too speculative. The key books that I'm talking about for investing for the midterm range in the antiques and collectibles trade are your pre-1975 key issues, preferably in near mint condition. And I know that turns a lot of people off because, yes, you are going to have to pay $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 or more in some cases for some of these key books. Books like Giant Size X-Men 1, X-Men 94. If you wanted to really risk it, you can go a little bit more esoteric. If you look at the price appreciation of Night Nurse 1 from 1972, released by Marvel Comics, what that has done in the last few years, if you think that book is going to go up in value even more, I don't think it is, but it could. You could take a risk on that. That's midterm investing in the antiques and collectibles trade. The other two markets I want to touch on briefly are silver bullion and gold bullion. Now, I'm going to be doing a whole video devoted to silver and gold bullion investing. I normally do not recommend going to the market, paying a premium for a gold or silver coin and investing in bullion in that manner. However, the market for gold and silver bullion does go in cycles. It's a precious metal. Therefore, if you buy on the dip and you go after American Silver Eagles and you buy them by the roll, not individually, guys, by the roll, you can make money in the long run and even in the short term. I'm going to show you how in an upcoming video. The same thing is true with gold. I personally don't like gold, and I'm going to tell you why really quick. The problem that I have with gold is most people out there do not have high net worths. What I mean, $250,000, $500,000, $1 million or more. So if you go to the market and you buy 1 ounce of gold, you are going to be tying up a considerable amount of your money that you have available in one asset class. And if you're going to tie up, what is gold right now? Roughly $2,000 an ounce, roughly. Let's estimate it. If you're going to tie up that kind of money and you're not financially invested in financial assets, you're not established yet, you'd be better off putting that type of money in an index-based mutual fund overall. Now, once you get to 6 figures in that mutual fund, in those financial markets, then yes, you can spend some money on gold. You can invest in gold, silver. You can get involved in all these asset classes. More on that in an upcoming video. But gold and silver, in my opinion, are good, believe it or not, midterm investments if you know how to watch the cycles, especially given the fact that we exist in capitalism. Capitalism, by its very nature, is based on boom and bust business cycles. That's why some of the Timmies out there that tell me, Sean, the economy is going to crash. No, there's going to be a recession. There's probably going to be another depression in my lifetime, but the economy will never, ever go to zero. It can't. The political elites who control the economy also control the political system. As a result, the economy anytime soon is not going to go to zero. You got nothing to worry about there. Now, let's talk about the other end of the spectrum that I like for long-term investing. Long-term investing is defined, in my opinion, as 10 years or more. Usually 20 years, but let's be honest, most people don't have attention spans in this day and age to operate with a 20-year time horizon, just being realistic. So if you would say, Sean, long-term investing is 10 years or more, I would agree with you. Now, what type of collecting categories do I like for the long term? Well, those of you that watched this channel from the beginning and seen some of my earlier videos, you already know some of the answers to this. I'm just going to read you off some asset classes that I love for long-term investing. Rare coins, rare currency, i.e. paper money, rare artifacts, historical documents, traditional antiques, art, first edition books, edged historical weapons, militaria. I love people who've reached out to me and said, you know what, Sean, I'm investing in Civil War, Revolutionary War, World War I, World War II artifacts for the long term. You guys are ahead of the curve. Those particular 4 wars in American history are iconic. As long as we have history class and we have people going to that history class, people will always invest in war-related memorabilia. The same thing's true with coins and currency. There's nothing more historic than coins and currency that gives a look at the culture of a country and how it came to be. Coins and currency are extremely historical artifacts. Now, the one thing on this list that I do want to point out is art. Art can be somewhat controversial because if we would break the art market down, there's different aspects of the art market that are for short-term speculation, mid-term investing, and long-term investing. If you're going to invest in art, I'm assuming that you have the money to go after pieces of individual art that sell for $10,000 or more, with a proverbial amount being paid of $100,000 or more per piece you're buying. So if you're going to go after art, you really have to be on the high end of the spectrum, both in net worth and your ability to stomach a lot of these markets. Now that I told you how to best put together a plan, or if you want to invest short-term, mid-term, or long-term, I'm going to tell you just some of the risks to be aware of. You guys have got to understand that markets change at the speed of light. We are in uncharted territory here with the internet, with social media influencers like Gary Vee, even some of the other YouTube channels that I respect highly, some of those people can be looked at as influencers into some of these markets, whether we're talking about Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, vintage video games, whatever it is. Be very careful what advice you take and always look at the contrarian side of that advice. I don't care if it's me giving you that advice. I don't care if it's another YouTuber. I don't care if it's somebody that you trust, like a financial advisor. Always in your mind, be able to look at both sides of the proverbial coin and make decisions for yourself. Now, another thing that you got to understand is collectible market indexes. When we look at the index for Pokemon cards or Magic the Gathering cards or even rare coins or sports cards, those indexes, when you have people that report top auction prices, they are geared towards tracking the top end of the market. Most people that are buying into this stuff are not paying $50,000 per coin, $100,000 for a piece of artwork, $10,000 for their collectible first edition books that they're collecting. So you must understand that you got to take that information with a grain of salt. I've said this before in other videos. Just because a certain vintage Star Wars figure is selling for $100,000, your rocket firing Boba Fett prototype figures, that does not mean that 12 back AFA graded near mint Star Wars figures from the vintage era are great investments. Markets don't work like that, guys. It's not directly correlated. It's just like the stock market. Just because Apple stock is selling at all-time highs does not mean every stock out there is a great investment, even if it is part of the S&P 500 index, which is what also where Apple resides. So you must understand that market risk. You also have to know that markets in antiques and collectibles are illiquid. A lot of you guys love to argue with me on this concept. I am sorry. Compared to Wall Street, where you could just click a button and sell at any time the market's open, and within 72 hours, that money gets deposited into your brokerage account. Collectible markets are illiquid. You have to find a buyer. You have to find a buyer that's willing to pay your price. You have to find a buyer that understands the market and chooses to either collect or invest in it. In other videos, I'm going to be talking about the minimalist mindset and how that is affecting the antiques and collectibles trade going forward. Right now, there is a large population of people that consider themselves minimalists, and they look at people like me and they think I'm nuts for paying $5,000 to $10,000 for a coin. They would look at some of you out there and think that you're nuts for paying $2,000 to $3,000 for a Pokemon card or a Magic the Gathering card or a comic book. Well, believe it or not, there's a lot of millennials that make up the minimalist mindset that we have to talk about in upcoming videos. So I'm going to just leave you with this information. I hope it helped. If it hasn't, let me know in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. Thank you, and have a great day.